will be starting here very soon. All right, the audio needs to be turned on. Welcome to the stream. So, time for the intro. Oops. Oh no. All right, if that cable's not out of the way, it's gonna be picked up over and over again. Okay. I wonder if this will work. No, the camera angle's bad. Okay. Welcome to our stream, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kevin, and I represent I'm gonna drive me crazy. My phone's playing the audio. Oh, somebody's in chat. Hello. Welcome to our stream, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Kevin, and I represent... I just pushed a button. Yay, technology. I'm Kevin, and I represent NeuroUnify, an organization steadfast in its commitment to the neurodiverse community. Today's stream is more than just a broadcast. It's an honest conversation about the urgent support we need to continue our mission. NeuroUnify is dedicated to reshaping how neurodiverse individuals engage with the world and the workforce. We believe in creating spaces where different abilities are not just accommodated, but celebrated for the value they bring. Our work, up until now, has laid the groundwork for a model of inclusivity and empowerment that we're eager to expand. I'm here to share not just the vision, but also the reality of our situation. This is a fundraiser, and yes, it's critical. We're raising funds to secure a vehicle for those who can't travel independently, to provide stable housing and maintain the foundation from which I operate, and to pursue further education to grow this initiative. But our goals are broader. We aim to standardize our group model, reach out across Texas, and unite with others for a louder voice and advocacy. We want to ensure that when decisions are made about neurodiverse people, they're made with our participation, not just about us, but with us leading the dialogue. I come to you as someone who has faced significant challenges, from personal safety to health and housing. I've lived the reality of overcoming adversity time and again. Now I'm channeling that resilience into NeuroUnify. Your support today is not just for me. It's for the countless others who look to us for hope and guidance. We're transparent about our needs because we trust in the generosity and understanding of our community. Every dollar that you donate is a step towards a future where neurodiversity is not just a concept, but a living, thriving aspect of society. So let's get to the heart of our discussion today, knowing that each of us plays a part in this story of change. Let's talk about where we are, where we're going, and how your support can help us get there. Thank you for being here. Your presence is a powerful reminder of the strength we have together. Now let's dive in. And so, last streams was sort of focused on mental health because I was having a difficult mental health day. Today's is a little easier. I'm noticing the eye contact even is significantly easier. My brain's not shutting down looking at you. But that just goes as a testament to kind of what some of the struggles are. And, you know, it's one of those things that, like, you know, comes across as guilty, but it's guilty about what, I guess, right? Like, it's one of the reasons that we struggle with being misinterpreted by professionals and police officers and in a lot of those kind of situations. And so it's just something to think about, something interesting, something noteworthy. So today, I don't know if we need to focus on that as much, basically, is what I'm getting at. I think there's an opportunity to maybe focus a little bit more on some of the things that we're trying to do to improve the group. So the first example, one of the things that we're working on today, I've been debating about whether or not I should do it on the stream, but it's talking to a lawyer about getting registered as an official nonprofit. That is something that we have had an interest in doing for a long time. There's a lot of trust involved in that for me. Like, I didn't want to just find a couple neurotypical business owners and have them be board members of a neurodiversity charity. But I didn't want to have it just be a couple random autistic people from the group either. We need some of that blend. We need a bunch of different perspectives. The company's called Unify, right? It's the goal is to bring people together, not create another monolithic group representing one ideology, right? So we're excited to find out that we may have found somebody who is interested in being a board member and who is hoping to be able to help pay for the lawyer and the paperwork to get it done. I need to call that lawyer to get the information on how much it's going to cost and what all work we have to do on our end. Now, I've got some books that I've been reading and, definitely been doing a fair amount of research online on what all the requirements are for running a nonprofit. And the good news is it's all stuff we've already been doing. One of the cool things I learned was that we're technically already considered a nonprofit. We don't have shareholders. We don't pay out from profit or anything like that. There's sometimes I take, I don't know if you would want to call it taking a loan from the company or an owner draw. It gets a little complicated, but there's bills and overhead basically that need to be addressed. So having the official formal paperwork is something that is very exciting. And so the purpose of this chat overall is Q&A. So if anybody pops in and has any questions or anything that they want to ask, this is an open forum, open discussion. Any conversation or subject ideas that anyone might have in the chat, they can feel free to throw those in at any time. The goal of this ultimately is to create a community space. I want to see this Twitch stream evolve into how do I word this? I guess a resource for people to go to for consistent, reliable support. Sort of the same thing that was the purpose of the support group, right? Every Saturday, every month that there are 4 Saturdays, we do a support group meeting every Saturday. We're working to expand to start doing social things. We just started talking about that on the Discord. But there's a lot of growth opportunities for that. I can't remember what I was trying to bring up. There's some tippy tappies outside the doors. We've got cute dogs and animals and stuff, and one of them I need to get better at trimming his nails. Or no, I did get better. Now I've just got to continue doing it. But anyway, so with the support group, that's kind of one of the big things that we're doing is we're currently trying to expand the offerings, give people more places to be themselves. That's one of the things that we want to get the donations for, and we're looking to reach out to people about is to, there's a lot of good that the group does, a lot of good stuff that we can do just with the time that I can give to the group, which is also, another reason for the donations, hoping to be able to source enough to allow me to scrape by enough to be able to dedicate my time to this full time. There's definitely also the healthcare issues to worry about, but if anybody has any, the purpose of the Twitch stream, we'd like to see it evolve into like a community platform where I would prefer the person who's saying messages to me say them in chat to keep chat a little more active. DMs are good though. At least you're sharing the information. Definitely grateful for that. But if there's anybody lurking, feel free to Oh, did he close this? Okay. So the person I was talking to, I believe, has just left the stream, so never mind. Anyway, to focus back on the subject at hand, one of the things that we're really hoping to do is create this Twitch stream to be sort of a middleman for content creators. I'm hoping once I can get a stable format going, I can start reaching out to other like autistic YouTubers or TikTokers or whomever, and maybe do interviews and Q&A stuff with them. That's something that I'm really excited about. That definitely is going to require time and attention. We're also definitely looking for volunteers if anyone's open to volunteering. I do think that I heard some weird sound that threw me off. I'm just here excited about what we're doing, and every day, Monday through Friday, from 11 to 1, I'm gonna come here and try to talk about why I think all this stuff is so dang exciting. I mean, it's like, I guess a good example is the social experiences thing, right? Like, so we've had a lot of success with the support group itself. That I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about how people appreciate having the space to be themselves. But something to consider with a situation like that is how that type of environment is, how do I word this? It's great to have a place where you can share your struggles, but it's also nice to have a place to create memories, to have fun, to play, to enjoy things. And when we were in the beginning and I had a lot more available funding, I was able to do more social events, and we did things like, there's a game called Jackbox, which is something that we could do on stream. That was a very fun thing to do. We haven't done any in-person stuff yet, but that's what we're about to do. We had a couple volunteers show up who are very into that kind of thing, and like I said, the discussions have sort of started on the Discord for that, and it's very exciting to see. There's growth, there's movement, there's life. Sorry, my brain just went back to that place of being fearful of the group's future. Like, for a moment, I was like, oh yeah, the volunteers, blah, blah, blah. It means somebody could probably step up if I can't keep doing this by myself. But then I remember how it went the first time when somebody else thought that, and I was the only person who stepped up. And I mean, times changed, the group dynamic has changed, people have changed. I think it might be easier if maybe one of the things that I focus on doing next is doing another call to action with the meetup group, asking for volunteers, because there was a message sent out not too long ago, but it was from a particular individual who's no longer associated with NeuroUnify due to some, I don't know, we'll just call them disagreements to keep it professional. But I just wonder, when I was looking through the documentation that I could find from what they did, I'm wondering how much was discussed on platforms without my knowledge or awareness, I guess, because I found out there was somebody who had offered to volunteer who I wasn't informed about until they brought it up independently, which is exciting. So I'm wondering if maybe there's already more help available than I'm aware of, and it was just being kind of held to the chest. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to cough for a second. Oh man, one of the fun things about, I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I think mine's hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome specifically, but one of the fun things is when I just coughed, like my, lumbar spine, a couple of the vertebrae tweaked around, and it's fun having a body like that. But see, a couple of people have showed up. Just to know, this is definitely an open Q&A. If anybody has any questions or anything they want to talk about, any suggestions or anything, feel free to bring them up in the chat. The goal of this is dialogue, but considering it's early days, and I think I literally just did the first ad for this today, or not ad, but first self-promotion on my own Facebook and the Facebook group. We're liable to be a little bit more monologue than dialogue. So if anybody has anything they want to say or bring up, feel free to just mention anything in the chat. Otherwise, we'll go back to talking about what we're here, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for, and sort of the reason that we're here, which is this is ultimately a fundraiser. I'm trying to provide value in exchange for it. I don't want this to be 2 hours of somebody sitting in here begging for money. I'd rather it be, an hour and a half of informative, educational, or entertaining material, and then maybe 30 minutes of begging. I like to think of it or frame it like I want to have more of that PBS or KERA fundraiser style mentality with this. But to start, because it's early days and we're trying to keep things simple as we grow, the focus is going to be mostly on just trying to just cover the value of what we do and what we bring. And again, engaging with anybody who might have any questions, thoughts, feelings, concerns. Trying to make a space for people who may not have it. And like one of the things is I do coaching and consulting, but it's not super cheap. And so this is another opportunity that I'm trying to create with this, is maybe there are people who would like to get some of that for free. And, it's a win-win because it's advertising for me and help for another person. And so that's really the goal, is to try to balance this as a way to provide another community service, as we're already doing in many other ways with Neuro Unify, but at the same time be open, honest, and upfront with the fact that we are struggling at the moment. Some situations have happened. I've got some healthcare problems that have tanked me severely financially, and the chickens have come home to roost, as we say sometimes in random, probably southern places. And so, there's definitely a need for any kind of volunteer, any kind of help, any donations. But more than that, I want to share what I'm proud of too, right? Like that music sounds like it's getting very loud. I'll drop that down a bit. Yeah. So, like one of the things that I'm proud of is seeing that we've gotten new volunteers, seeing the passion and dedication. Like one of the cool things firsthand working with Neuro Unify for as long as I have, and doing like job placement and job training kind of stuff, is seeing the impact in people's mental well-being. Like the turnaround is usually so quick, and it's sad in a sense to think about how much it must imply that their lives were missing prior to finding a place where they could feel included, or finding a place where they didn't feel like they were the alien or the robot or whatever that isolating thing is. That just like being around other similar people is such a life-changing experience. But it's something that has a profound impact on me quite regularly. I suffer with depression. I have this similar experience of being alienated by the vast majority of society. But it's a little easier knowing that even though I'm struggling and I think I'm not doing good enough, and I'm not doing enough for the group and blah, 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 that there are people whose lives are fundamentally changed for the better just for the fact that the space exists, regardless of anything that I've done specifically or anything that anybody said or it's nothing specific. It's usually just the power of community, right? And that's what we're here to support. It's what we're here to try to grow, try to embrace. That's what I want the stream to become as we go through it. Anyone who's in chat, is also welcome to do, I'll call it a call-in interview, if you will. Now, there might be some technical hurdles in getting our first live caller into the stream, but we've got solutions for that. So if anybody feels like they have anything to say or want to jump in, chat's always open and available. Another cool thing to be proud of, though, when it comes to, if you are going to help support the group, something that you can know that you're doing is saving lives. I mean, it sounds hyperbolic or extreme, but I've been told in no uncertain terms that the group has provided a will to live for people who have had none. And I can speak from my own experience on that too. There was a particularly dark incident somewhat early on in my ownership of the group where a certain level of employment exploitation was taken extremely personally by me. And the social relationships that I had built were very shallow, because I never felt comfortable being myself around people, because that always led to rejection, right? And anyway, it got pretty bad, and it got to the point where I'd come up with the plan. I'd written everything down. I was ready to go, basically. And I was writing down my letters to people, my goodbyes, and I just kept thinking about how I had the support group tomorrow and how I was going to be basically a depression beating me up again, right? But it was enough of a factor for me to lead me to call somebody who I had written about in one of my letters. It was like one of the only people that I felt genuinely bad about doing it to, because I know it probably would have affected them pretty badly. And, being unalive doesn't necessarily mean I have to worry about the problem, but I still have a conscience now, and I just couldn't do it. So I called them. They were able to help me out, and I was able to host the group the next day, and I'm still here. And it's one of the many reasons that I've been happy to support this out of my own pocket, my own time. I generally was refusing donations or any kind of thing at all. My therapist and I would argue about it, actually, that it made no sense that I wasn't asking for donations or any money or anything, even though it was draining me. But it felt like, one of the fun things about being autistic is a lot of black and white understandings of things. And for me, altruism was one where I was very confused by what it actually meant. And it's like, well, if I'm not doing it completely out of my own kindness, then I'm being greedy. I'm making them do it. I'm forcing people to exchange something, and then it's not a good thing anymore. If anybody's giving me any kind of exchange back, then I'm not being good. I'm being neutral. And I still struggle with that. That's why it took so long, and things had to get to a particularly bad place before I felt comfortable doing something like this, putting myself out there, saying, hey, I'm not doing so good. I need help. And a big part of the motivation is still other people, of course, but it's come to my attention that the more stable and functional that I can be, the more that I can do for the group. I was touching on that earlier, like when we were early on and I started doing the the social stuff. I had the time, I had the emotional capacity, I could handle, to an extent, trying and failing over and over again. Failure is probably not the right way to word it. I think there may have only been one incidence where I was actually by myself the whole time. There was one time where I had to wait like an hour or something, and that hour sucked, of just being by myself, being like, oh yeah, I hope somebody shows up. But then like 2 or 3 people showed up, and we, like, every time basically we've had fun. And I'm hoping we can bring that back to the group again. We can have we could, like, support is great. Social support is great. There's a lot of value in that. Like I said, it's changed lives. It's kept people alive. There's so much good with it, but fun is important. Socializing is important. I mean, for the last 7 months or so, I've been kind of stuck at home since my car got totaled by somebody running a red light. One of the other reasons that I'm in this financial situation. Although at the same time, it's also, it was almost $1,000 a month for that car, so could be worse. One less expense. And just as a reminder, if anybody's hopped in or just joining us, feel free to say something in the chat. This is a Q&A. It's an open session. Ideally, we're hoping to be a dialogue, but we're okay with a monologue. But so with the social stuff, yeah, there's a need for sure in creating those kind of outlets for people to get positive energy into their life as well, right? The struggle is real, and it's nice to have support. So I do want to give credit to our volunteers who are putting in the time and putting in the effort to try to help do the things that I can't. And that's what we're here for. So I think another thing that would be really fun to talk about is what it's been like for me running the group. It's been hard, but it's been enlightening. I think anybody who's known me knows that I like to give unsolicited advice. What they may not know is that as soon as it leaves my mouth, usually the next day, honestly, I tend to regret it, because I think about all the questions I didn't ask. I think about all the details I didn't know, and then all the potential risks and consequences for if somebody followed the advice and it was wrong. And that had weighed heavily on me for a long time, especially the more that I got into psychology and neuroscience and chemistry and physics and all that other nerd stuff, and started getting more and more confident about, like, this is how the brain works and this is how people work and da-da-da-da-da. You just get, I mean, if with the type of conscience that I have, at least, I find it very hard to accept the idea of hurting someone by proxy, even like it's a butterfly effect ownership kind of thing, if that makes sense. And something that's been super helpful for me is with the support group, you have people who hear the advice and then come back week after week after week, or maybe not every week, but you have people who come back regularly to where you can see the results of the feedback that you've given them. And one of the things that was really good for me is to see in real time the growth in people's lives, like the dramatic changes that they have from being able to talk to somebody who has similar experiences to them and a similar way of like processing the world to them. So that's something that's been really nice for me, is to see that, like, okay, I like, humility is important. Nobody should think they're the smartest person on the planet or anything like that. But I certainly took that to an extreme degree by thinking I was probably the dumbest. And it was nice to make me feel like, oh, maybe not everything I say is going to lead to somebody getting divorced or something, I think it's an interesting paradigm to be put into, to be able to make the space for other people to exist and to have that kind of shine a light on not only your blind spots and your weaknesses, but your strengths. Now there's been more than one instance as well where I've been damn near certain that I was not gonna be able to continue running the group. it's an intense pressure that maybe I just put on myself. Feeling a sense of ethical and moral duty to such a large number of people. We've got somebody back. Hello. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, questions, or anything you want to know or ask about or bring up, topics of discussion, feel free to toss them in the chat. Give us something to talk about. Otherwise, back to the difficulty of running the group. I mean, even when I had somebody who was considered co-organizer, it almost was though like you would hope that it would become a situation where when one person's down, the other person's not. But we were also roommates, and that has an impact on things. And we both would find ourselves in that place a lot, of feeling the pressure. And I think it's hard, mostly just feeling that lack of support. I know I can speak for myself in saying a lot of times I do that to myself. I don't always like the methodologies that people choose when they try to support, and so it tends to lead me to just avoiding it altogether, which isn't fair to either party in this situation. I mean, it's one of the things that you gotta consider. Let me just say something. Let me just send him. I just gotta send one quick message. I just remembered the microphone's muted. Hopefully that message got sent and understood. I apologize for the... Oh, yeah, that's what the BRB thing is for. Well, I'll remember to do it next time, hopefully. But yeah, so the... I guess just to get back on my thing until somebody in chat decides they want to give me another topic to discuss. The running a support group with over 1,000 members, an autistic support group at that. It's definitely a challenge. There's one of the cool things actually that was really inspiring for me was, I've read a lot of research and am aware of a lot of tropes and certain perspectives on how autistic people supposedly conversate, and it has been sort of awe-inspiring to see how many people in the group, like, maybe the instinct is to try to dominate a conversation, but in almost every single experience I've had with the group, nobody wants to dominate the conversation. Everybody tries desperately to make the space for the other person. if two people interrupt at the same time, it's almost like what is the phrase? Like a Midwest traffic stop, basically, where two people stop at a stop sign at the same time, and everyone's like, no, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. And it's just not at all the impression that you get when you read about this through the data or the research. I'm surprised. Okay, that message may not have been understood. Okay. There we go. Okay. More open. Okay, so we got a question. Do you think companies are becoming more open to hiring neurodivergent people, or are they far from doing so? I understand that this is one of the goals of NeuroUnify. So that is a very good question. It's sort of a mix of both. There is a corporate culture that is growing, sparked by, I guess, woke capitalism, for lack of a better phrase. A lot of companies have realized that being accepting and open-minded makes people think the company is a better person, and they're more likely to buy from it, because probably not even close to most, actually. There are a good number of people, though, who are trying to be more conscientious with where their money goes. And that's why you've seen, what is it? Aunt Jemima doesn't exist anymore. It's Pearl Mills Baking Company, and Uncle Ben, I think, changed to... there's an awareness that you're losing out on a demographic that has money when you don't focus on incorporating a diverse staff in your company. At the same time, there is also a particular, we'll call them billionaire class, so to speak, that believes in a homogenized workforce, that believes that everyone should be held to exactly the same standards, and if you can't meet that standards, you don't deserve the job. You can be replaced. You're a cog. You're a this. So you'll really need to, it's a lot better than it used to be, for sure. And there are legal strides being taken towards the right direction, but it's really going to depend on where you are, and probably a lot is going to have to do with what type of job it is. I know companies like, I think, Walgreens and Walmart, all the walls, but there's certainly a lot of large multinational multi-billion-dollar corporations that are implementing neurodiversity strategies, neurodiverse approaches in their hiring, in their training, and in their workplace. Because one of the things that they're all discovering is that a happier and healthier work environment for neurodivergent people also tends to equate to a happier and healthier working environment for everybody else. We're not it's there's this concept of special treatment, and I get the idea behind why people are saying it, but it's difficult for me not to view that as another way of saying common decency, ultimately. And I feel like, don't have blinding bright lights, don't play deafeningly loud music. Some stuff like that is beyond reasonable. The idea of being able to wear noise canceling headphones is a thing that kind of a dead giveaway for whether or not a company is going to be one of those neurodivergent friendly companies or not. But at the end of the day, they need to be, because those companies that have made those steps towards a higher or more diverse staff in terms of hiring people with disabilities, stuff like that, the beliefs that people would have generally or quote unquote logically is along the lines of if they're disabled, that means that they're going to be more difficult, they're going to work less, they're going to call in sick more often, they're going to have all these problems. And they found the opposite to be true. They found that they show up more often, they're more consistent, they're more loyal, they produce higher quality results. And it boils all down to support, right? If you get proper support, you don't tend to run into those kind of difficulties with your staff. And like somebody with a disability, my ability to work has definitely been tied directly to how much healthcare I can afford. It's been very weird to be able to make that one-to-one connection. All the times in my life where I can actually remember being happy, healthy, and successful were the times where I had a decent medication regimen, exercise, diet was under control because I could afford to budget and plan for. Anyway, the point is though, when a company hires, that's a good question too. I'll get to that after I finish answering this first one. Yeah, that's a fun story on why we have the time that we do. So, but so with what I was saying about the neurodiverse hiring, that is something that I can speak from personal experience at all of the companies that I've worked for, where I've been in any kind of management position or I've had the ability to change how management works. That when we create a safer, healthier space for people with disabilities and hire them, not only do they tend to produce higher quality and more consistent output, they show up more often, but the neurotypical people involved tend to appreciate the benefits as well. It's like almost like a trickle-down thing. So it's ultimately, with YouTube primetime channels, the truth is there are more companies now than ever that are open to hiring neurodivergent people. We're no longer viewed as necessarily outcast. We're still struggling with subclass. And there's definitely as much, if not more, of the rejection than there is of the acceptance. But there is definitely more acceptance now than ever before. And so it's the kind of thing that if you're looking for work or you're looking for a company to work with, you can almost certainly, if they're large enough, you can almost certainly see what their approach is when it comes to neurodiversity. So I'll go to the next question that we got, which is why did we choose the time that we did from 11/11 to 1/11? And the short answer is it's neat. It's something that I thought, like knowing OCD people and a lot of autistic people, it seems to be somewhat universal that we appreciate certain numbers. Like a number will give us a feeling like, oh, like I think 37 was one that was like, I couldn't understand why I liked it so much. And then I looked it up and it was like, oh, there's a lot of reasons to like that number. It's got all kinds of cool math functions and stuff like that. But there's just sort of a certain attachment to time. And I think this is also going to be a good subject before we go on our intermission, which is going to be at 12 o'clock for anybody who's in chat and wondering. We'll be taking a short break from 12 to 12:10. But anyway, so the 11:11 to 1:11, there's a couple different reasons that I like it. One, that time of day tends to be when I'm awake naturally. Two, it's all the same number. Like, I like 11:11 on its own for that reason, and I like 1:11 on its own for that reason. Put them both together, and you have a whole bunch of ones. It's an awesome number. Just 11111111. Very easy to remember, very easy to think about, very easy to type. It's just got a lot of benefits. It's a very, very fun number. And it's also kind of one of those things where when you're doing
YouTube Music is a music app to discover every
content,
subgenre that's ever existed.
sometimes
Like Dimbo, you didn't know was poppin'.
putting in things
YouTube
that
Music Premium.
I know what to do to get rid of the popping sound. Putting in things I can still hear me. Putting in things that will make people ask questions or make people challenge it is also a way for engaging people. So, you're the third or fourth person to ask about that time choice. So it's something that makes me want to do it even more because of the fact that it has people asking questions. Like, oh, that's an oddly specific time. So we do have about 1 more minute before I'm going to go on break, or intermission, I think is the term. Oh, no, sorry, 10 seconds. Perfect timing. That's I just was opening the clock. So we're going to go ahead and go on our intermission, and we will be back at approximately 12:10 in about 10 minutes. Thank you for joining us.
Want to listen ad-free, download music offline, and keep songs playing in the background? Get YouTube Music Premium.
When your standard exceeds the ordinary, exceptional experiences are to be expected with the Platinum Card from American Express. Travel to places that you always said you would. Do the things you never thought you could. And take in the sights. And see the world because you always told yourself you should. Step up to benefits, credits, and perks well beyond ordinary.
Hello? Timekeeper?
Coming! Ah, Sam, right on time.
Reporting for duty.
Ah, you helped Mr. Bowman?
Mm-hmm. Shoveled snow off his driveway.
And Miss Hernandez?
Help decorate her tree.
Oh, and Zach.
Yeah, that's my problem. My own brother needs help, and I don't know why.
You're doing very well, Sam. An excellent apprentice. I think we can retire the snow globe now and begin the next phase of your training. Finding and helping those in need without using this.
Well, how?
By opening your eyes and your heart.
And Zach?
Be bold, Sam. Real compassion requires action.
Zach! You okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, something's up. I know you don't want to talk about it, but I'm not moving until you do. These posts are mean, Zach. He's bullying you. That's not okay.
Some friend, huh?
Have you...
There we go. Boop. All right. Welcome back to the second half of our stream. Yeah, and just to circle back to what we were talking about beforehand, the time. So 1:11 is where we plan on ending the stream, but there's a chance it could go it could end a little early, as it does sometimes. Depends on how long we can keep going, and I apologize for the split focus. I just realized that I don't have... There we go. Perfecto. Okay, so, thank you. I guess, let me check the schedule, see what we have on the agenda. Yeah, that might be a good thing to go over. So, I don't want to close it that way. I want to open it this way. Self-care. Self-care is a very difficult subject to talk about. Something I've noticed every time I bring it up, I always think I'm saying something obvious, but apparently not. Well, how do I word it? That's not right. I don't think I'm saying something obvious. I think I'm like, I've got to be the last person who has found this out. Doesn't seem to be the case. And that is, the concept of self-care is not self-hygiene. It's not making sure you're doing your chores and brushing your teeth and taking a shower and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that stuff can be a part of it, but the focus is supposed to be on what are things that make you feel good? What are things that help improve your mood What are things that help improve your sense of self-satisfaction and self-worth and self-esteem? That's self-care. So we had that's kind of what our group was focused on Saturday, actually. It was a practical support, which oftentimes will be a workshop, like kind of one of the other reasons that we're seeking funding and why this is a fundraiser, because I'd like to be able to dedicate more time to preparing more material for those workshops, doing more of those kind of guided courses, and having, a dedicated class, a dedicated support group, and a dedicated social event as separate things. Right now we sort of alternate where it's 1 week it's in person in Dallas, 1 week the next week then it's virtual, then the next week it's that class thing in person in Dallas again, and then the next one is another virtual one. Yeah, duh. And the last practical one we did, we kind of focused on different concepts of self-care, and it really helped me frame something. One of the things that I'm trying to force myself to remember, because I wanted to make sure I remembered it, was I have talked a lot about with the group the concept of the difference between your limit and your breaking point, and how burnout happens when you're constantly past your limit, and meltdowns happen when you pass your breaking point. And you never want to pass your breaking point, because that's when you lose what little executive function you might be holding on to desperately at any given moment. And something I had never really considered was within that there's your comfort zone. A lot of neurodivergents may not be familiar with a comfort zone because they've never really been allowed to be comfortable. I've never really even felt comfortable in my own skin most of the time. But it's what was I trying to say? The support group. Oh yeah, self-care. That's a big part of that too, right? Ironic. But so we talked about that the concept of comfort levels came into it too, and I think that's something that's so important to keep in mind is you've got the more you can pay attention to kind of where your energy levels are at and what you're feeling in your body, the easier is not right, the clearer the signals can become to let you know you've stepped out of your comfort zone and you've reached past your limit. Now, when you grow up neurodivergent, a lot of times you're forced to do pretty much everything past your limit, not really given a lot of chance to recover, and so you kind of tend to normalize that behavior. But that's part of what's important about adulthood, is learning to set and hold your own boundaries. I think something else to keep in mind for a lot of you who may be new to doing that is you're going to make mistakes when you first start off. There's sort of a pendulum effect, if you will, where you'll have way too porous boundaries and you'll have way too rigid boundaries, and it kind of goes back and forth, and you've just got to learn to accept that that's part of the process, and roll with it. Like, just accept it, like the feel the feelings, and don't just be like, oh, I'm sorry I did this thing, I'm just on that side of the pendulum, I'll be better later. Like, no, you still have to take ownership and be accountable to it, but recognizing that that's part of the process of learning to have boundaries and value them, that's how you'll be able to figure out where your comfort zone is. Like a good example is for the first half of the stream, I was definitely feeling in my comfort zone, and in walking back and coming back, I think I am more outside of that limit, but I think a lot of that can do. Oh yeah, we do streams with every different kind of topic. Yesterday's was, I mean, mental health and self-care are pretty two sides of the same, well, not even the same coin, but they're definitely related subjects, but they're, oh, thank you. I forgot to do that. Yeah, I appreciate you letting me know about that. Sorry for the music being too loud. I turned it up for the break. Forgot to turn it back down when I came back. I should probably... There are ways that I can address that to where it happens automatically, and we'll keep that in mind. Bear with me for a second. I need to reach for my water. Extreme close-up. So... yeah, so when it comes to topic stuff, that is kind of like to let you all in a little bit on the behind the scenes. There's talks about how we're gonna structure the stream. I think one of the ideas is that we would come in with a sort of pre-selected series of concepts or topics to discuss, but we've been discussing them for about a week now or so, and it's still me trying to make sure that we get something out. And so I've been trying to find a middle ground to help make sure that there's a way to be here to make the space for people to ask questions and to learn more about autism, or whatever their situation is. Oh, my brain. Think. I had a little bit of a pain attack, and it stole my thoughts. Make streams. Oh, right, the topic stuff, behind the scenes stuff. Since we're still talking about that behind the scenes, it was important to me to make sure that I was still able to have a way to show up consistently. A big part of this is going to be setting the habit and building the habit, and then being able to grow from it. And so I figure, while we're trying to figure out the structure that works, why not make a more flexible, free-flowing structure that I can accommodate while we're still working on hammering out the details. So that's basically where I got that opening script from. Actually, I wonder if I should read that when I come back the second time. Come back after break. There at least should be some kind of intro. Anyway, so with the back to the behind the scenes stuff, we're working to try to find a balance between how do we let people know what we're doing and why we need help, while also adding some value behind the stream itself. I'm hoping to be able to, for people who want to donate for a good cause, be able to do that, but also for people who just are in the "this is really helpful, keep doing what you're doing" camp. I want to be able to provide something for them too. And so we're working really hard behind the scenes to try to come up with a standardized structure to where, like, that's one of the things that I keep in mind a lot when I'm working with neurodiverse people in general, is that consistency, patterns, and reliability are super important. And so, like, with the in-person groups, we were struggling to find a permanent location, but that was really important. And it, eventually we were able to find a place. I think we've been there for maybe a year now, but there are groups that have been there for years and they're not going anywhere anytime soon, hopefully. Although if they have a struggle, then, we might need to do some fundraising for them as well. But the idea behind what we're doing now is getting the ball rolling, getting things started, and trying to put ourselves out there for anybody who has anything that they want to, or anything they need a space for somebody to listen. There's like a whole group of people on Twitch. I think it's called Heart Support. It's kind of a similar thing where it's like a mental health stream. And, I've got a lot of life experiences that I get to draw from to be able to relate to people easier than some who have not had as many life experiences as me, or different life experiences, or somebody who's had a different life than me, period, I guess. And the stream, we want to be a fair exchange of value, right? And so we're working on, like, I think the idea we're going to do is we're going to have a specific centered topic. Hang on, I've got notes here too, so we can get some feedback on this from anybody who's watching this later. All right. So, we're gonna do kind of 45-minute Q&A, 5-minute, mindfulness meditation or self-care break or something like that, and then doing the intermission, doing another Q&A and topic discussion thing, and then another self-care mindfulness thing at the end of the stream, and then the conclusion. I think with the topics, specific topics are chosen, and we'll sort of provide additional research and resources, stuff like that, for the other stuff that we're going to be going over. It's just one of the reasons that we're seeking fundraising is because my healthcare has declined significantly, and it makes it difficult to commit to the same kind of high labor, intensive projects. And so spending a whole bunch of time researching and pulling up a bunch of topics, for me, like, if I'm the one doing it, then it adds another level of difficulty in being able to have the energy and enthusiasm, the dripping enthusiasm that's coming out, to be able to do this, because I know I have a habit of, I don't want to say taking things too seriously per se, but having very intense interests in things, and I know if I focus too much on sourcing the content right now, I'm going to burn myself out and not feel like it's good enough for the stream, or that I'm exhausted for the stream, and it'll become more and more difficult to do it. So in order to avoid that, I'm trying to create a low energy stream for low energy days, and a high energy stream for high energy days. And with everything going on and all the instability and stuff, we're sticking to a low energy stream style yesterday and today. if we're able to get the notes and writing and everything done and discussed, all done and dusted today, then, we might be able to have a more structured stream starting tomorrow even. I do know one of the key things about supporting neurodivergent people is managing expectations realistically and not applying unnecessary pressure, because the more pressure you have, the lower your cognitive functioning, and then you have all kinds of knockoff effects and the quality suffers, and then feeds into this loop of like, oh, I'm not good enough. And so the idea is to start slow, start easy, start steady, ramp our way up to being a high quality production. Like, so a secret is, if I turn off the webcam, you'll see there's actually a nice design behind what we're doing. But I realized the focus, actually, let me bring the chat up, might be useful. Oh, is it not scroll? Okay, there we go. That could be helpful. Okay. Yeah, there's little design stuff that we've been doing behind the scenes to try to really upgrade the quality of everything going on, but I thought there might be value in people seeing real time what it looks like to develop and grow a brand or an audience from scratch. Now, I do have experience with streaming on Twitch, and I did gain somewhat of a following and had a somewhat of a community, but that was many years ago. The market's changed a lot, and I definitely have not, like, I've taken some of the knowledge I have, like Streamlabs is the tool I'm using, which I know about because of using it back in the day, but Twitch will tell you about that too if you just go on their website. And so I know I found a lot of relief and value when I watch some of my other content creators who don't edit out all the mistakes that they make. And they show you the 50,000 broken prototypes and tools that they went through to build that really cool thing. And the behind the scenes stuff, I think, really goes a long way towards showing, not necessarily that anybody can do it, right? Like, we don't want to be dismissive or ableist in that regard. But it does show that there's a level of difficulty and failures that go behind almost anything great. And you don't have to figure out, you don't have to know how to be the end product to get to a similar place, if that makes sense. As Fleetwood Mac likes to say, you can go your own way. Oh, my brain shut down again. All I can remember now is that song. You can go your own way, go your own way. Oh no, I hope I don't get copy strikes now. Anyway, yeah, behind the scenes, working on the stream and stuff. So I really kind of wanted to have, I don't know if we'll call it source material for a documentary or something like that, right? Like the history of the growth of the progress and the effort that goes into it. So if you go to our YouTube channel, for example, you'll see the first stream is almost unwatchable. The audio and video are so far apart from each other at some parts. At one point, the video goes in slow motion while the audio stays at normal speed, so it just starts to trail away. And the second one, you have to turn your headphones or the volume all the way up. This one we've been able to kind of find a balance. Like, I got a dedicated machine that we're streaming from, so now I don't have to worry about it being a crappy laptop that's causing the issues, and that let the video stabilize. Then it was a matter of figuring out the placement of the microphone, the amplifier, some of the equipment and stuff that I have, most of which is for music production. But I did have, I think the original one I used was the Rock Band microphone from a video game, and it worked really well. Back on my old Twitch stream. Hey, it's 12:34. I have a little alarm that goes off every day that says 1, 2, 3, 4, time to celebrate. It's another one of the reasons that we do this from 11:11 to 1:11, because I find times very fun. I also have sort of like a personal connection to them. Like, I always like to take a moment to reflect whenever I notice a really cool time, be like, oh, I wonder what's going on in my life right now that is worth reflecting on, worth thinking about, worth ruminating on. And so, those little times a day will give me time to reflect. So I really value that. But so with the stream, we're working on bringing it up, but we want to do it slowly. And like, another one of the reasons I don't want to go too crazy in making everything too super high professional is I really want to feel like this has been built from the ground up by the community. That's something that I've learned in my experience as a manager, is the more sense of ownership people have over the thing they're involved in, the more they care about it. And I want people to care about this, and I don't need ownership. I like a perfect example is NeuroUnify has been the only sponsor for the DFW Autistic Support Group for the last 3 years. Nobody in the support group had any idea who or what NeuroUnify was until like a month or two ago, maybe at most, because it just didn't. I like altruism. I like helping. I'd rather do it for my own reasons than. Anyway, I'm losing the thread a little bit, but the need for fundraising is here. We definitely need help. We're doing a lot of good stuff. It's worth investing time or money in for myself, and I think it's worth investing time and money in for anybody who has any kind of neurodivergence and cares about anybody like that in their life, because there's so much unnecessary suffering because of the isolation. And we're one of those people out there that are one of those groups that are out there trying to bring people together. And, we've got proof that it's working, right? That's one thing that a lot of other people who try to do fundraising can't really talk about is what they're actively doing. It's always, give us this money so that we can do this thing. And it's like, well, give us this money so we can keep doing what we're doing and do it better. We're helping hundreds of people who are a pretty extremely oppressed minority. I mean, if you look at the statistics for autistic people when it comes to work, it's devastating. It would make anybody with a heart want to help out, like if they know anybody personally, because it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, but you're so loyal and you're so quick and you're so this and you're that, and it doesn't. It's like, yeah, no, it doesn't. But it's a lack of information, a lack of support, a lack of understanding that gets in the way, and that's what we're hoping to resolve. We want to start with the local community that we've built, help them grow and get bigger. It's one of the reasons that I'm trying to that's one of the reasons that I tried to keep NeuroUnify and the support group separate, because I wanted to make sure it was a community and not an extension of a company. But NeuroUnify has shifted from being just a company to now being charity-focused, nonprofit-focused, because of just so many reminders when I've been dealing with business-to-business situations and just how screwed up this whole system is right now. Let's see what this username is. Okay, that's what I'm logged in as. So the support group, what was I talking about? I didn't even want to go over there anyway. Brains are fun, aren't they? Oh wow, I caught it and it flew away. That was kind of neat. I wonder if that probably didn't get picked up on camera. Talking about the support group. Already talked about that. Talked about self-care stuff. Interesting. Okay, well, I guess. Oh, funds. We were talking about funds a little bit again. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that that's one of, I don't know. Yeah, so I have a fun dissociative disorder that will shift my focus sometimes. And every now and again we'll try to, how can somebody join to the support group? There's a few different ways to go about it. The fastest answer is probably the website. So if you want to post that in the chat for people, that might be helpful. And there's a section on that website called Communities, and that's where you can find links to the Facebook group, links to the meetup.com website, and links to the Dallas-Fort Worth Autistic Support Group Discord. Now, we do also have our own Discord that we're hoping to build a community around for the general public, or neurodiversity stuff in general. I'm hoping to keep the support group and the company relatively separate. I would like the company to be responsible for what the support group does, but I don't want the support group to necessarily have to sacrifice its autonomy and its safe space to accommodate NeuroUnify, right? So I think if you go onto the website that we have, or I guess if you're not going to type it, I'll type it. Either that or you might be getting auto-modded. Let me see. NeuroUnify.com. No, it worked. Okay. Weird. Yeah, so we probably need to set up a Nightbot or something. Although I'm thinking we might want to switch to YouTube instead of Twitch, unless anybody knows a free multi-streaming application. It just seems like it might be a better demographic. Although I don't know, it's tough to think about. These are some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but the support group has a couple different ways to go about it. Although it is mostly for people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So do keep that in mind. And it's a very protected social safe space. And so if you're looking for more of a general community to join, the NeuroUnify Discord might be a better space. It's not going to be nearly as restrictive or what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, restrictive's good enough. Yeah, so, one second. But anybody in Dallas-Fort Worth area who's neurodiverse in any kind of way, it's it's called the Autistic Support Group, but it really is very supportive of most types of neurodiversities, and most of us in there have some kind of, I almost said it, most of us in there will have some kind of diagnosis for a different, a lot of us in there have psychiatric diagnoses, and those relate to other different types of neurodivergences. And so I've noticed there's a lot of overlap in the struggles and the support needs. So feel free to join if you're in the area, and if you're not, you know, this is one of the reasons we're seeking donations, is we're trying to expand what we're doing. I see it working so well where we already are, and you know, we want to grow it. We want to make it bigger. We want to make it better. We want to help more people. It's a model that seems to be working pretty well. And I think if we can work together to get the word out about it, then we can help a lot more people. I know Dallas-Fort Worth is a pretty busy area, and so we have kind of a cheat code, if you will, in terms of how many people we can get in a certain region. But I mean, we've had people in our support group from all over Texas. I'd like to expand into a couple different areas around Texas to start. The other idea is, you know, there's those things like 12-step groups like AA and stuff like that, and they're built to be autonomous. They're built to be self-sustaining groups. And I have an idea about maybe doing something like that might be good, is where we can just build a binder with a dialogue, and, you know, these are the rules that we've come up with, but, you know, whatever group y'all create, you can come up with your own adjustments. Just make sure that it's democratic and there's no leaders, and you know, it's a pretty good structure, and I think I might like to do that as well, and that would allow it to kind of exist wherever it needed to exist. You know, it could be in Norway or Guatemala or, you know, New Jersey, without me having to play a direct role into it. And I think that would be amazing. That's definitely going to require some donations. There's funding, there's time, there's effort, but it's easily accomplishable with the right resources. I mean, again, we've already got, there's so much cat hair in this room just floating around. We've already got so many good resources in the people in our existing community who are trying to help. It's really just a severe lack of funding. You know, and it requires a certain level of humility to be able to say, hey, we need your help. And that's what I'm here trying to do. Here trying to say, hey, we need your help. And so any ideas, suggestions, questions, thoughts, concerns, donations, feedback, connections, all those are super valuable with where we're at right now. I wish I had more time to be able to research and solve all these things myself, but as I've mentioned a couple of times, there's a lot of issues impacting my health and well-being lately, and high performance mode is very difficult to activate in light of all those circumstances. So I'm reading this cable. To circle back around to how people would join the support group, my usual recommendation is to do the meetup, the in-person stuff. You don't have to go in person. It's hybrid as well. You can join through the Discord and just listen. But I think that's the best time to do it is one of those hybrid meetings, because that's where I get the most positive feedback about people feeling safe, I guess. Maybe nobody really says safe per se, but when they talk about being able to unmask, that to me is part and parcel a little bit with that. And it can give you a really good taste of whether or not that's your neuro tribe, for lack of a better phrase, although it's a pretty good one. Taking the time to sit around people who share and validate your experiences is profound, and I think it would be greatly appreciated. I'm not sure if I can pull off another 20 minutes of stream. Unless there's some kind of super engaging conversation or something that sparks up. I think it might be worth maybe contemplating out loud what might be a worthwhile subject to discuss in the next stream. And then if anybody is... Oh, my phone went to sleep. That's why it's only one viewer now. Okay, so I think there's some value in contemplating what might be a useful topic to discuss tomorrow, because that's one of the things that I've noticed is once the stream's done, I tend to want to go right to nap, and I think that's fair. But let's set tomorrow us up for success. So we've touched on self-care, we've touched on mental health, and on the last stream before that, we were focused on random Q&A stuff from Reddit, which I think is probably a good direction to go. The downside is Reddit itself is mostly like soft lock now. Oh, we've got a new question. Let's see. Hi, looking over the website, I feel like the statistics and specific practical reasons for the group would be nice to list. Sure, there's isolation, but why? Sure, there's workplace discrimination, but why? I feel like most neurotypical people are ignorant of autism, so it has to be explained to them if you want them to donate. That makes sense. Actually, it's funny that you say that too. I work with ChatGPT a lot to do some of the copywriting, and that's one of the things that I remember yelling at it for today when I was trying to do have it help me write a Facebook post. It kept assuming everybody knows what neurodiversity is and what autism is and all that other kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't think I've looked over I think with the website, I sort of felt like I had a captive audience that I was talking to who did know, but it really is supposed to be a blend of appealing to those in the know and those outside of it. So I'm definitely going to I'm definitely going to do a once over on the website and look through it with that lens. I think we got a question that's asking if NeuroUnify accepts volunteers. And the answer is yes. We're definitely looking for volunteers. It's on the website. I think the why question is interesting. I'm gonna focus on that. Like, I mean, my gut is empathy, but that's not how the world works. That is a tough one. I mean, I kind of was touching base earlier on the idea that when minority rights or disability rights are strengthened, the world is generally improved for everybody, but that narrative isn't necessarily the universally believed narrative. So that's not going to work as a motivator. It's like, why would I need things to get better when I'm fine with the way they are now? What would be a good why? I mean, you could always go with guilt, but that's not sustainable. I think that's one of the reasons that I'm hoping to appeal mostly to a neurodiverse community, specifically, because I think it's almost like approaching an appeal to the common experience, because there's a lot of people in our support group who've reached some level of success, and I know that on the greater whole there's plenty of neurodivergent people who are very high on the ladders of success. And I guess I came into it with that sort of thought that, like, hey, they're more likely to want to donate because we're it's such a good question. I'm gonna have to dig into that, honestly, because it's almost all the stuff that I want to talk about is like some kind of personal appeal, and that would work great for friends and family maybe, but not as a wider outreach. I mean, there's the economic impact and the benefit overall there. I might have to shift subjects just because I'm otherwise going to stay here contemplating that for a while. I mean, I can agree most neurotypical people are ignorant of autism, but it doesn't mean that we're not also everywhere, right? Not underdiagnosed. I want to say underseen, but I don't feel like that's a real word. With minimum visibility, right? And so there's, I guess what I'll really have to do is figure out why the heck so many people donate to Autism Speaks, right? I think that's really a good place to go there, is like, because like we can help parents' lives be better. A lot of the people who get support with us, like even the workplace training and job placement stuff, like one of the things for me, like when we first started doing this, was like that it at least would appeal to parents of what do they call it, failure to launch type kids, right? Like, oh, we just want our child to be independent and self-sufficient, and like, hey, we can help with that. And it does seem like Autism Speaks has a lot of its motivation in appealing to parents. That said, it doesn't seem like that's exclusively the demographic. Yeah, that's a very, very, very good question. A very good thing to bring up. I really much appreciate that. Wow. Seems like I'm trying not to like insult myself internally, because it's an obvious question, but I think that's usually a sign of good questions, is when they're obvious. Let's see. Neurodivergent people would probably already be interested in helping, but given the job statistic, we may not have much to donate. And would need help just thinking about the marketing strategy. Yeah, I mean, at least the vast majority, yeah. I mean, my thought is I've seen some people at the higher levels of success too, and a lot of them have been starting their own nonprofits and stuff like that, and so it's why a lot of the idea behind it is the volunteering, because I see the potential for a volunteer to a meaningful employment pipeline provided by what we're doing. I've already been able to kind of do that for a number of people. They'll come into the support group, they'll end up reaching out to me for some kind of mentorship. We'll walk through them, the struggles, difficulties they're having, help them get a better position and all those kind of things. but we're still able to get the help with the volunteer side of things too. Because I had an idea that I'm not sure if it's legal or not, but it was sort of like a way to help people get off of disability by having a on-the-job work training type thing where you like, well, actually, it might be legal. It might not be legal here, but it's definitely legal in some places, because there's another company doing something very similar where they have this class that you can take, and they give it to you for free, but they require you to pay a certain percentage of your salary at your next job to pay back for the course. And so I want to use kind of a similar model to be able to help build up some sort of nest egg or value for people and have that transfer over into a long-term investment. Like, oh yeah, we'll let you do all this stuff in the training and the mentorship and blah blah blah, and have it be an arrangement where, like, okay, and then when you start your business or when you become an employee, you just give us 1% or something like that, for X amount of time, like a way to generate long-term value for people without asking for too much back, but being like, hey, well, we got to sustain ourselves too. But yeah, no, it's the appealing to neurotypical people is a big part of the website for me as well. It's there's
So you can listen ad-free, download music for offline play, and keep your songs playing in the
it
background.
is
With
it's
YouTube Music Premium.
Christmas and people are looking for gifts, and maybe somebody's got some kind of like autistic nephew or something, and they're like, oh hey, I donated to this thing as a gift to you. It's got to make sense why we're doing what we're doing. And I did just do a like complete overhaul to the website yesterday, so there's a lot of roughly thrown together writing that I'll be needing to definitely finesse and strengthen over time. So I'm really glad that you brought that up in that context and brought that to my attention, because it was definitely a blind spot for me. There's a lot of the who, what, and why, but I think the why is why we do it, not why you should donate, right? So that's very, very helpful. So that is a good reminder, though, to we do have a volunteer form on our website if anybody is looking to help in any kind of way. There's it's on the homepage, NeuroUnify, NeuroUnify.com. Scroll down to the very bottom, and anything helps. Like we've got some people who are offering to help with some organization stuff. We've got some people who've offered to help with some social media stuff. Some people have offered to help with organizing social events. That's very nice. But we're definitely in that place where we're seeking all the help we can get. Either it's be it somebody's time, money, expertise. There's a need here to keep things going, because we're helping people. So let me check the schedule again. I think we're pretty close to a good time to start winding down. Yeah. We've got one last question, and then I'll go to our closing stuff. So the question was for you, what would be the importance of NeuroUnify in the Neurodivergent Society? That is a long question to answer. I think the shorter version of it is, I think a lot about Autism Speaks and the damage that they do. And I often think about how people often have an easier time working together over a shared enemy than a shared cause. So, for me, I would feel like I accomplished something significant if we were either able to make it where nobody knew what Autism Speaks was anymore, or if we were able to get them, like, basically Autism Speaks should be something run by autism. Yeah, the coaching stuff is not cheap, but there's a discount for support group members, and there's free on here. But the Neurodivergent Society stuff, there's actually, I should probably reduce the rates given my current financial situation. Yeah, I might drop that. The discounted rate's $50. I'll still do 50% discount for people in the group, but yeah, no, I'm surprised I didn't bat an eye at that yesterday when I was updating the website. Yeah, I'm definitely not in a position where I can ask for $100 an hour. Hence the having a fundraiser. Now, whether or not the value is there, that's a different discussion, but that's not how capitalism works. The value is what people are willing to pay. The Neurodivergent Society stuff, though, I would like to see NeuroUnify overshadow Autism Speaks, either because Autism Speaks gets so small and weak that it's very easy to overshadow them, or because we get so big that we overshadow them. But I would like to see, when people are talking about autism and other different types of neurodivergence, that it's talked about by autistic people and not people talking about us. I think that's the key thing to fight for, is to make sure that we're in the room where it happens, so that we can make those decisions. Either that, or we create a network amongst ourselves to where we're not relying on the greater support system. We know we have some sort of interdependent support structure for each other, at the very least. So that being said, it is about time to go ahead and start wrapping things up. So I guess one of the things that's really helpful to do for self-care and grounding is a deep breathing exercise. There's, I think box breathing is a really good one. I think my preferred one is 6, 7, 8, because it's easy to remember and it's easy to do. And so what you do is you essentially count in as you breathe in or you count up as you breathe in for 6 seconds. You hold it for 7 seconds, and you exhale for 8 seconds. And the purpose behind doing that is, when you have, theoretically at least, when you have your breath length longer on the exhale than the inhale, it supposedly sends signals to your vagal nervous system, to your vagus nerve, to bring down your adrenaline levels and sort of switch you back out of the fight or flight state. I think the idea is that it's supposed to represent the type of autonomic regulation that happens after you've like escaped from a bear or whatever, right? That place where you're like, oh, did we get rid of him? And you put your hands on your knees, you're like, oh, right? Like you're doing short inhale, long exhale. And so, actually, I'm just going to put a thing in the chat real quick for that other person.
Now you can play the podcast you love on YouTube in the background on the YouTube Music app.
Okay, there we go. Oh no, there's an ad. Okay, good, it stopped. Oh yeah, so the self-care thing. So one of the the 6, 7, 8 breath method. I'm gonna try to position the microphone in a way to where I'm not gonna be breathing into it, because that would be awful. And then we'll do that for, say, we're almost out of time actually. We're there for 30 seconds. So, starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In for 6 seconds. Hold. Out for 7 seconds. In for 6 seconds. Hold for 7. Out for 8. Now, if you're doing this at home, you'll want to breathe out with a bit of a sigh sound behind it, like a, oh, if you can. I'm going to withhold that on my end so it doesn't become obnoxious, but it's part of what connects to the nervous system. So in for 6 seconds. Actually, that was 30 seconds. So that's just a quick tip for regulation. You can continue doing that, counting. Usually after 10, 15 breaths, you'll notice a distinct difference in your mental state, either more energetic or dizzy or loopy. Should have cost just for my current fracture. No, and that's understandable, Dome Dweller. That's why I'm changing the price as well, because my current financial situation does not justify charging that much. I've got more time now than I usually do to be able to give. And that's sort of where the economy of that was set, was what was the market determining what the time was worth. Now, I mean, there's other ways to value it, but for me, its goal is to be more as a community. Like, it's about the mission that more than the money, and the price should reflect that, especially because we are now built as a charity and not as a business. I don't mind hanging out for another little bit longer if you've got any questions or anything you want to ask. Hopefully the chat is not a little delayed. Hopefully the video is not very delayed, because we are technically past 1:11, so the stream is officially over. But one of the main reasons I'm here trying to do this stream is to be there for people who, might be in your situation. I'll tell you what. Can I can't. Oh, I have to log in though. Woof. Okay, well, I at least have your username, so I'll try to DM you, and see if you want to talk one-on-one. The first appointment is free, and I'll be honest, they usually go a lot longer than 30 minutes, especially if you think you're on the spectrum. One of the things we can do is talk when we're talking about something that interests us. So, actually, Jose, do you mind sending him a DM with some of our contact info? Maybe shoot him on our email or something like that. Say something if you're in the chat still, Jose. No. Okay, well then I will whisper. I blocked whispers from strangers.